It's Kevin Oldham, your host of Franchise My Business, a podcast by franchisors for franchisors. And I got to tell you, I get excited about all of our guests, but when I hear about somebody who's done work in an industry that's near and dear to my heart, which is real estate, and has really kind of taken it on their own shoulders to go from basically a very, very small team to a growing concern to a business that is now ranked in the top 4% of real estate companies in the Hampton Roads areas with over 1,000 agents. Guys, this episode is going to be fire. It is my honor and privilege to welcome to today's show the founder, co-founder, CEO, broker, and owner of First Class Real Estate. I have Mr. Rhyan Finch in the house. Ryan, welcome to the show, sir.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me on here. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to live up to that setup, but I appreciate that.
You know what? You're selling yourself short because I did a lot of research on you, and man, you've done some really cool things. And so I think that today's conversation is going to be awesome because we both have a background in real estate franchising. But before we get into that, when did you get into real estate? What age were you?
2006, I think. October 2006, I got into real estate now, so I was like 26.
Good timing.
Oh, yeah, great timing.
Great timing. Yeah. I mean, you just couldn't have probably picked a better time, right? Right at the peak, right before we went down for the last.
Honestly, it kind of worked out. Everything that goes wrong always seems to work to my benefit. And I don't know why, but it's like I like adapt or die mentality. And so I got into Fannie Mae and REOs. So then I sold thousands of REOs a year. So nationwide.
Yeah.
So that was all pregame for the rest of this of what we're doing now. So.
Yeah, I'll bet it forced you to dial in your processes too, because I know we were doing some REO work for like B of A and Arvest back then, and it was a lot. I mean, it was, high transaction volume. Actually brings back some scars that I don't want to think about doing real estate back in 2007, 8, 9, 10. So when did you launch officially First Class Real Estate?
First Class Real Estate was 2013. So I did all of that stuff with Fannie Mae direct real estate wise, and I branched out nationwide. I think I even became the number one RE/MAX agent in the world, or in the country. Sorry, not the world. And then right after that, it all shifted and changed, and we used that as a pivot point to go open up our own company. And we stayed in the same office we were in. We just changed names and changed out all the documents and all the stuff we did, and moved the team over to the new company. And so it's like February 2013.
February of 2013. So February of 2013. You go and launch this organization. How are things going at the beginning?
It's funny. If you look back on it, it's like, if I knew now if I knew in 2006 what I know now, I would have got there a lot faster. And if I knew in 2013 what I know now, I would have gotten here a lot faster. I can only imagine what things are going to go on. It's like, it's the fun of the journey of learning and the frustration of saying, what took me so long to figure this thing out? So, 2013, it was crazy. My sister was dynamic in the founding and operational side of it. She really set up all the systems and things. Like, I could picture stuff, but she could like make it come into play. And so, that was a key point in that setup. And then, from there, it was just meandering, right? I mean, we were just like, I don't know how to explain it, just doing circles and staying at the same numbers for a long period of time until all of a sudden it was like it clicked. And I was doing a coaching with a guy who's actually trying to get me to open up a corporate model. And so everything he was talking about in the question wise was corporate model, but he's not telling you. You know how those big high level coaches they're like asking you questions. Like, what's yada yada, and how much you make here, and yada yada. And I can only imagine. I came back to him, and his face was just kind of like downcast. I'm like, I got it. I'm gonna go franchise. And so never sold a franchise in my life. And
but he helped you figure that out, even though he was thinking about pushing you down like a corporate model, right?
He helped me do the model, and it's funny. I almost look at my life back like Slumdog Millionaire. You ever seen that movie?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I have. It's a great film.
Things in life where he could answer the question. So like my aunt worked at Liberty Tax. And so John Hewitt wrote the forward in my book, who opened Jackson Hewitt and Liberty. So he wrote the forward in my book. This is way back earlier, like 2015 or something
before you started franchising, right?
Yeah, we didn't franchise until 2000, almost pretty much 2019 is when we started franchising. And so we did that. And then I was going through this and I told my aunt, what's the next steps, So she was a VP over there and she said, we got to open another office. So I opened another office. I'm like, oh, man, it's another build out. It's another lease. It's another employee. And I got to wait to go and scale and grow. And so then I opened another office. So then in 2017, we opened like 2 new offices because I knew that's where we had to go, had to relinquish some control to somebody to run the office. And they don't run it like I do, so then you kind of like want to control that. And so, then money is all going out. And I thought the goal of running the business was to make money. So I really messed up.
What? Yeah. Hold on. You wanted to make money in your business? Oh my God.
Oh, well, you know what you do? You know what you do with that? You just go look in Silicon Valley. They put millions of dollars in before.
Yeah, you don't need to make money. You don't need to post this thing called profit. By the way, profit is trendy in Silicon Valley again. And I think it's awesome. I'm like, hey, so you guys are going to come down to reality and start like actually,
Yeah. Well, when you're using somebody else's money, profit's not as important when it's somebody else's money, when it's yours. And so, but you would think I learned that lesson going through the crash of 2008 and then going through the cycle of opening multiple offices and losing all the money in 2017 to then turn around and dump $500,000 or so into the technology and all that for the franchise to lose $50,000 a month for over a year. So I went from a profitable business to multiple offices and a franchise business losing money, built out a 12,000 square foot resource center. That is what we call our corporate headquarters resource center, and hadn't sold one franchise yet. So that's been all the money that all that. I just knew where we were going, but it was like, I got this idea, so.
Isn't it cool when us entrepreneurs, I mean, it's kind of scary to those around us, right? When we start doing like big stuff, like 12,000 square foot resource center before you've inked your first franchise agreement, but like you just know, it's like this visceral feeling where this is the path I'm supposed to be on, right? And sometimes it's expensive. Sometimes we have to make those mistakes that do cost us money because it leaves this imprint on our minds about, hey, like that's something I shouldn't do again. And it's also something I can pay forward to other entrepreneurs, helping them in their journey, right? And so hopefully you just help some entrepreneurs as well, just by kind of sharing some of your thrashing. But the funny thing is, I believe, and I know you believe this too, because anybody who's in entrepreneurship knows that we have to have trials and tribulations. We can't, like we always say, hey, if we knew what we knew back then, we'd be so far ahead. But we had to do with the struggle and the failure and all of those things to get to where we are now so that we could play the bigger game, the infinite game. So in 2019, when in 2019 did you start franchising?
Well, we technically got like approved, the first state in December of 2018, but we never sold a franchise. Like we didn't have a process. We didn't know we had documents, but we didn't have like a presentation or any of that stuff. And so I think it was like May of 2019 was when our first franchise sold.
Cool. Which is an interesting time because we all know what happened at the beginning of 2020. World kind of changed, threw some wrenches at things. And you've got this new venture, because when you start franchising, it's a startup. You don't know exactly what the value prop's going to be. You hope that you got it really, really close on the first shot, but you're probably going to have to hone it. The first franchisee, where was that location?
It was located in the same market we're in. So we sold it in here. So we just basically got a model where it was like you can be an agent this way, or you can open up and do this. So,
okay. So, and have you guys done a lot of conversions? Because I know that's like a big thing in like the real estate space is finding people who are already like independent broker or somebody like that and saying, hey, here's the benefit of affiliating with First Class Real Estate. I heard you say you've invested a ton in like tech and all of these things that maybe these independent brokers aren't able to secure themselves.
So what we did was we first went to launch them. I said, all right, we'll do the first 3 for free. So we did that, which believe it or not, still took 5 months to give away a franchise. So that was
because you were giving it away.
Yeah.
That's why.
But there was no proof of concept. So I said,
right.
we can't charge it so much. And so we gave them away. And then after that, those people didn't really drive. Like they weren't like exactly the avatar you're looking for. They ran, they operated, they did what they wanted. And we didn't really know what we had at the time. So the next group, we sold at 5,000. So we just did a discounted one. But, and the reason I'm saying that is because to answer your question, but those people came in, they were already independent brokerages. Okay. And they came on, and when they did it, boom, they took off. I mean, they would go from having like 5 agents to 50 agents, like 10 agents to 100 agents. And so they would scale and grow really, really quick because they could focus on that growth. So it was huge to us to be able to do that. And then obviously from there, we could take what was possible and then roll that back to the profitability so that way they could talk to them, say, hey, here, how did you run your office, or whatever it was. And so they can figure it out from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the most challenging things for people that are right at that beginning of the franchise journey. You've got your prototype, which is your business, your own business, but that proof of concept of somebody else adopting the business model, like nobody wants to be first. Nobody wants to be the first guy or gal to open up X brand location. I don't care what it is, right? And so it always takes somebody to have that faith in you, your vision, your team's vision to jump in. And so that's awesome, man. You guys have how many locations? Just over 100 right now? Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it's 105 or 106. I have to go check the report.
And over 1,000 agents operating within those.
Yeah, I think it was about 1,400. That's awesome.
Yeah. What are you guys known for? So, you talked about tech, right? Is that one of your core differentiators from a just an agency perspective as a real estate company? And have you guys gone about the custom route, or did you get some stuff that was kind of already built by some of these bigger guys?
Yeah, we kind of pieced together some pieces and then kind of, I don't know if you would say like glued it together. But it's funny you're even saying that because we argue about that internally with our franchisees, like, because we talk about that. We have area reps too. So area reps sell franchise. So we talk about this kind of thing. And it's like, okay, are we just a platform that they can take and go and run and grow and it's just really skinny? Are we a business in a box that allows them to do that? Are we the coaching platform that allows them to get their mortgage and title stuff going after they grow? Are we a platform that they can multiply offices out? Like, are we a tech company? Are we a service company? And so we go through all these things and I sit back and I'm like, I know where I want us to be.
Right.
But every time you turn around, it's always whatever the customer wants it to be. Right. And so, and you can't scale if it's too chaotic, but we just have some amazing employee people that work in our franchise business, and those services they provide are like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like going from like a Holiday Inn to a Ritz-Carlton. Like it's still a hotel, but the service level is just higher. And so because they're that capacity and capability of a person, then when someone buys a franchise, they get that. And that's been harder. In this economy, it's been harder to find high level people that could, so they got to plug into that. So that was huge value to them. Other people just said, oh, well, I like it that it's skinny and I can scale and grow and add and pass the cost on to, as we go along. And so, and I can still make a profit margin. And so, there's others that say, no, I like the ancillary business side. So I don't know. I mean, everyone finds a different value from a different thing. And I almost don't want to go away from one to the other. And I almost just kind of manage expectations to say, whatever you think the value is today, you may not tomorrow. Some people will jump on a coaching call with me on a pretty regular basis because that was a value they thought that was important to them and they found value and they took advantage of it. Others didn't look at that as a value and don't even try and don't even care. And so they move on, and we're not like, well, you didn't get on a call. Like that's okay. That wasn't important to them.
Yeah, I mean, you deal with the dichotomy that we did at my last company too. It was almost overwhelming, So we also had United Country Real Estate, which was like the largest rural real estate franchise, right? And agents would come in, and it was almost like they were overwhelmed because there was too much. So here's how I described it, and maybe this will help you. I don't think you have to be really known as a technology company or anything. You are a real estate franchise, and what you offer, you have a wide buffet of services. And the way that I would explain it, I'm like, so depending on where you are in your journey, Mr. or Mrs. Agent, Here, you're going to need different things on this buffet. If you're somebody who's a rookie agent, you're going to need the coaching. If you're a veteran, you probably want the tech. You want something that allows you to do more deals quickly, right? As low friction as possible. So the way I always explain it, I'm like, you've got this buffet of services that are available to you. We know that real estate agents are all over in terms of their different, where they are in their careers. You could be a top producer who's been in the business for 3 decades, or you can be a new agent. And your job as a franchisor is to meet them where they are in their career path so that they can prosper, right? And so, if those guys think, if you and your team think about it, it's like, hey, we got this buffet of services. We got to have a little bit of everything for the agents that are joining us, and for the prospective franchisors that we want to or franchisees that we want to partner with. Makes a pretty compelling value proposition. So and I can sympathize with you. It's like, technology in the real estate space, there's so much of it. So you got to like analyze what's going to be the best for your agents, what's going to be best for you and your management team. And that's actually what I want to talk about next is your franchisee support team at the resource center. What's your infrastructure look like in terms of like people? So you've got area reps, you've got, I'm guessing, trainers. Like, talk about how you guys support these folks who are your franchisees.
Yeah, so we've kind of gone a couple of different ways. We've got high capacity people. What do we have? Like 12 people. I mean, there's about 12 people. And you got the area reps. There's 22 of those, and so they can cover a support system for replicating kind of like the integral parts of it. Then what we do is a lot of it's collective. So we can take one key player, whether that's training on our CRM, whether that's training on our transaction management, whether that's training on sales. And so ultimately everyone kind of goes in and has a lane of what they do. We onboard and offboard their people. So it's just kind of frictionless for them that it's having that extra person. We help them with the accounting side of it. So then we have other ancillary services. So like, even while that's it, we're doing services as a service, so you think of like software as a service is like, we have all these other services that everything I did to set up was, even if it was technology, we get the technology lower, then they can go get it somewhere else. So they're buying the right to be able to get it lower so they can scale at a higher profit margin quicker. Yeah. And we take on the risk. And we do that across a couple things. But then we pull together the services. So if it was like accounting, you can't go get, if you're just starting up a real estate business, a good accounting person that can run all your books and do all your processing and all that for less than probably $60,000. Well, you're coming right out of doing deals and trying to run an office now. You can't do that. It'll cost you money. We can get them all their accounting stuff for like $500 a month. Yeah. And so that's with us still keeping a margin. We have a margin on it. And so we can do that, and that scales, right? And so we can do that and run that business. And for them, it's a huge savings. And now they can re-roll that into marketing or growing or even just keeping the profit. So it's things like that we've set up.
Yeah, it's cool because you're solving problems that some people don't think about, right? I mean, you're making it. And I'm guessing like services as a service. I'm going to guess that one of them is like transaction coordinators, or is that? Okay. So yeah, like that's a big deal for people who aren't in real estate. Every time a transaction is done, there's a lot of paperwork, and you got to tick-tacky and make sure everything's done for compliance. So a lot of agents will try to find somebody to do that on like a per transaction basis.
And we do it for less than what they would find it somewhere else.
Dude, that's awesome.
System. So when you bring an agent in, they have to use our transaction management. Well, if they don't know how to use that system, the franchisee had to train them. We go, no, just pop it to them, and then you're only paying if there's a closing. Yeah. So this is what's beautiful for them. You're only paying if you have a closing. That means revenue came in. People love the ability to pay. Zillow kind of figured this out. All these others, like, we'll pay a referral fee. We don't pay for leads that may not close. We won't want to pay an employee for a deal that doesn't close. And so we've done everything to where like we're betting on it that we'll take care of it, and we'll take the loss if it doesn't work out. And so and it works for us, it works for them, and they're excited about it. So
yeah, I mean, and that's the headline with franchise. It's like, let's try to think about all the things that keep the people that we serve from doing their best work. Whatever it is. I don't care if you're making hamburgers at McDonald's or whatever it is. Let's try to provide that basket of shared services at a cost point that they couldn't get for themselves. And frankly, with experts and people who are ingrained in the business, like, hey, they're doing a lot of first class real estate transactions. Like, heck yeah, that's a win. That's a win. What do you think's been the biggest mistake you've made in this franchising journey?
Oh my God, there's a list.
What's the one that you kicked yourself the most about? Let's go.
I had 32 employees when I had maybe 3 franchises, because I wanted to make sure that support system was there. And so we spread it across those. And so too many employees, the payroll, the overhead was just too much. It was just bad business. I mean, there's really no other way, but I sold myself on that. I needed to provide all this other service. What I didn't realize was that the business itself, like my job, was to provide that level of service without spending so much money. If I spend so much money, I mean, it was like, you ever seen the show We Crashed? I mean, you can go WeWorks for WeWorks.
Oh, yeah. No, I did see that. Just
leaked out a bunch of space, overpriced and like anybody can go do that. Right. You can go do a bad job and grow. And so that doesn't make it a good business. And so trying to figure that part out of like, okay, how do you navigate this other thing? But then you get to where you get some employees that cost too much money. They don't put out enough output, right, of service and value. And so now you're kind of upside down on that person. So by getting that team of people together that could put together that much output, that much service, that much heart behind what was going on, that is our company, right? I mean, like if you can get a team and a squad, which is what I call them, the squad, is like where if I'm out of town, I'm not worried about they care and take better care of it than I probably would have. And so, they're doing that. And you just kind of know that it's really just one of those things ingrained. You ever seen the Steve Jobs movie where he's no B players, right? Yep. And so the B players discourage the A players because they know that they're doing twice as much work than the other player. And when you're having them, that culture affects everyone else, even that, the franchisee. It affects them because they're now having to go through that person, that's the B player, and they can feel it. So by right sizing and correcting that stuff is key. And if you don't have enough money, so by overspending on employees or things like that, you don't have the money to kind of move through some of the nuances of other stuff and or be innovating and growing to the other side of it. So if you've got capital, you can start buying the vertical things that will add on, that will grow value to them as well.
How did you cross the chasm? And this is what I always call it. It's like, because really, when you make that decision that you're going to become a franchisor, you're starting a new business. It's a totally different customer. It's B2B versus B2C. Yeah, it's like a totally different personality almost that you have to be a franchisor. And lucky for you, like you stumbled into it because you coach people. You like to coach. You like to mentor, right? And luckily, that's what it takes to be a great franchisor.
I got lucky then.
You got lucky because some people don't. I think some people get into it and they don't realize that that's a big part. It's like, hey, I'm going to have entrepreneurs relying on me and my team and my system to provide for their families and create wealth and all sorts of stuff. Right. So you make this decision to franchise. It's not a small undertaking. You've got your current business rocking and rolling. Did your current business suffer at all while you were trying to spin up the new thing? Or how did you manage the complexity associated with running a really awesome business and then starting up a new one that's kind of a sister?
Well, I feel bad for the people that had to step in, but people had to step in and kind of run and do it. But I also had to pass them the business. So remember, I talked about those years of growing and doing it. I sprinted to go grow this big business to turn around and hand it to somebody else. Remember, I said I would do it faster. I would have hired them to grow it while I did that at the same time, instead of then growing it, turning it over to them, and then they're paid on a percentage of profit. So now they're running what you built, which took away time, to then by paying them, you're losing that revenue that you could be pouring back into getting the other business. And that business is now costing money instead of making money, which then nets against what you were. So you're making less and losing money on the other one. And so that was the challenge of that chasm, of that jumping to the other side. And so then it was even intertwined. We're running the books of one company in another, because like you said, we didn't realize it was a whole different business. So then we had to move these employees out. So they're getting like terminated from.
Oh no! And
you would think I knew this, right? Like I knew this.
You wouldn't know if you don't know, right? And that's like the goal with this show. Like if you can save one person from just this, like this is gold in itself, because you're right. You had to untangle term, then rehire, reconcile books, and all those things. So
Well, and then it's the changes, right? Like you said, there's the changing of the model. So we haven't sold a franchise yet, but we're charging our office like it's a franchise to prove that we could run a franchise and they would still make money. So we started with these numbers that were high because it was small, right? But really the money was in the economy of scale by racing the number down. You needed to charge them less of a royalty. So we're charging them more money to move it over on the books. And then we're turning this into accounting and whatever. They're like, wait a minute. So you took this money, moved it over here. So you made this profit. Well, no, because technically that was already revenue that came from this that we just moved to this. So it wasn't new revenue. They were counting it twice as revenue. I was like, no. So that's when we had to move it out and go get it. And that's why we had to move to the other office because there was confusion. The agents in one office were coming up and asking me questions when they should have been asking that person, which means we focused on this. And so then we needed to go do that because I needed to now sell franchises. But now I had to generate a customer and market and figure out how I was going to present it. And by the time we got it all together, we ripped off everything that everybody else did. You do discovery day and you bring them in, generate leads, yada, yada, have people call and then you get them in there and you do all that. And then COVID hit.
Yeah.
And then COVID, you ain't flying. There's no hotels. There's no nothing. We just finally got to where we're clean and we're going to make a decent profit, and at this profit margin over the next 20 years, we'll get back all the money we lost.
2-decade cost recovery on your startup.
We're literally, yeah, exactly. Well, I was thinking like that at the point. I was just going after what I knew was my next step. So anyway, so we go into that and so then we're hit with COVID, and I literally was in an emergency meeting now I was lucky. I prefaced before that and did everyone work remote 2 weeks before all that happened. They didn't know. I said, this is coming. I said, so.
Oh, really?
No. Yeah. I said, no, I said, everyone work remote, and I want to see if anyone misses a beat and what's broken. Because if the phone doesn't work when you're there, who's going to watch the phone when it's here? What are you going to do about scanning and faxing? All of this stuff, whatever the mission critical things are that will break. Now,
continuity of business, right? I mean, continuity.
We need to keep on going because we owe a service. Otherwise, those people are going to shut down. And I said, I want an Excel spreadsheet. What is it going to cost me to operate if we can't operate? Meaning, what's my overhead cost, even if we can't do any business, if not one house sells? Because I'm thinking that's all going to shut down.
Yeah, you had a disaster plan, right? We all did.
Yeah. So I was running on whatever that was going to cost me. And then lo and behold, it led me to a new thing. So I got really lucky in this. It made me look at it and I said, well, what we'll do is we'll run a virtual model. And so we'll run it as a virtual thing. And we ran the P&L and I said, well, you can levy off of one, off of the other and go do it. We ran a P&L on it and did all of it. And next thing you know, I think we have like 55 virtual offices now. So people are running an office with a company. They're not paying overhead. They had no build out. They went straight kind of the profit. You really can only lose money if you decide to pay $20,000 a month for leads and not convert them. Or go hire 3 more employees and not have really a reason for them. And so, because it's all just straight profit at some point. So, so they don't have all those expenses. And it's been huge. And then some of them, they'll grow and then they'll lead into going to get an office now because they want to run staff meetings. And that's kind of emerged back. But some of them said, I got this far without an office. What do I need to go out of that expense? Because now I got to go work harder to make money to pay for that office. And I don't want that. And then that emerged into our area rep model. And the area rep model, which I already knew when I had. But then those people said, well, if it's all virtual, then I can go sell these quickly. So then they went and sold. And so, that kind of, they drove sales and we drove sales. And so all of that. And then we did Discovery Day virtually. So now we only have virtual. Then we recorded our MLS. Everything was set up, our LMS or learning management. So now everything is automated. And so, we looked at that and we continue to do that to automate because we know what's coming next. Employee costs are going to go through the roof.
Yes.
And that's what's coming next, right? Through inflation. So by automating, we've made it where we can stay skinny and grow. And so now we look at our margins and if our revenue, what percentage of our revenue do we keep in profit? And then from there, what will be our next acquisition? So how do we buy things into this and add other verticals so that we make these other ones, which we have some, but we want to take in other ones, whether that's buying schools or buying recruiting softwares or whatever that'll be that we'll buy, we'll buy it and then resell it as a product back to our franchisees at a lower cost than they would do it. Once their economies go down, we'll buy them at a discount and then sell them back, which will then build a momentum to add in the other verticals. So I don't know if I'm losing you on this.
No. As a matter of fact, what you just said was COVID sharpened the saw, man. I mean, COVID made it so that you had a better value prop before you knew you needed to have a better value prop. Because you're right. You hit the nail on the head. It's like, and I've always believed that, the offices can represent a lot of waste. I always tell agents, hey, this is your commission that funded this office. Congratulations. Because it's true, right? From the split.
Right. Well,
and so yeah, absolutely. It's an anchor when interest rates go up, and you have to be lean and mean and iterate. So that's beautiful, actually. I mean, sure, it wasn't fun back in 2019 and 2020 when you were having to get through it. None of us probably want to do that ever again, but your company is sharper for it. Like the value props dialed into what agents want and need today. Low overhead.
Well, lower down in the franchise side that they know what they need. They can run skinny so they can bring on agents, because our value prop, when you look through it, is we want our franchisees to own a real estate company, a mortgage company, and a title company. And we want them to give them 100% commission. We want them to make money. They own the lion's share of mortgage and title. So now the 100% agent gets all the money into that, but then they share an equity of mortgage and title, depending on the state, with the agents. Now the agent's getting 3 checks and 100% commission, which is just disruptive to everyone else that's out there. So that's what we're moving toward. That's what we're growing. Obviously, it's just never fast enough. And, we deal with what I think any franchisor will deal with, which is we have some great leaders. They're really smart, and they've made it and done well because they're really smart and they're really creative. But they plug in now to a system, and it's kind of like watching the movie The Founder. I'm sure you've seen it.
Oh, yeah. Right? I love The Founder. It's a great one.
When they wanted to start selling chicken sandwiches outside of the Burger King, right, or the McDonald's. And so it's like they want to keep changing it, moving around. Like, no, this already works. Just run this play. But they're like, no, I want to go. No, let's go back. And so, you deal with that part of it. You don't want to be restrictive. You want to allow them to be creative and flowing. And at the same time, if it's not working, we got to quickly get them back to, hey, let's stick to the play, and that's the dance that you're always going to do. So.
It's a dance. And one of the things that I've learned in my career, some of our best ideas came from franchisees. Like literally some of the best ideas we've ever had in franchise organizations that I've been involved in come from franchisees. Now you get a lot of suggestions and things that don't make a lot of sense, but every once in a while you'll find something that's like, oh my gosh, that's a phenomenal idea. If you use the example from The Founder, let's go back even further. The milkshake. The milkshake's what saved them, because the refrigeration costs of their freezers or whatever was ridiculous. It took up a ton of real estate. They had one rogue franchisee who went with the mix, right? The powder. And that to this day is still what they utilize, I believe.
I memorized. So like I watched that Week Crash. I watched Super Pump. I watched The Founder. Like I learned from all of those things that they do. Like I can picture their businesses and their stuff of what they went through and doing all this stuff. And I really just try and grow and learn from those kind of, like, that's my recreational time. Like that's my downtime. It's watching.
It's fun, isn't it? It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun, but I'm learning from it, and then I want to go implement it and run it. And so, and sometimes I'll look at it and go, like I think they're dumb. Like I'm like, I can't believe you did that, whatever it is. And then I'll go over and it'll be a month later or whatever. I'll be thinking on it, and I'll go, oh, that's why they did that. I'm the idiot, not them. So and that's and at the same time I go, I'm not thinking big enough. I'm not going fast enough. Like all of that stuff is going on. So
I think all entrepreneurs probably want to get to wherever there is. We never arrive there, by the way. We just keep moving the chains further out, but arrive there sooner rather than later. And that's always challenging, right? That's right. So if people want to learn about you or your company, like what's the best way? Let's say there's a real estate office who's listening. They want to learn more about the franchise opportunity. They want to connect with you as a human. Like, what's the best way to get plugged into your ecosystem, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, if they go to the First Class Real Estate website, they have all the different options. So agents can join on. They can go to offices. The people can join on to a discovery day, find out everything that we have there. They can do a contact form if they want to just reach out to me that way. That's just kind of the easier way. They can pick out whatever it is they want that way.
Cool.
Active on my Facebook profile, so I mean they can reach out that way. I get the messages and things.
They can
like
go buy your book in the Amazon store, right?
They can. They can. I don't even usually recommend that. If they want, they can just tell me. I'll send them a copy. Writing the book part of it was just somewhat a setup to get national exposure.
Sure.
So that was thought preface. Like, I don't want to tell the story of kind of what we did and how we got to there, at that point with over and over. If I can make it show some interest, I can give them the book, and then they can know, and they can say, hey, I like this guy, I want to be in business with him, or no, I don't really, or appreciate it, but no, I'm not. And that kind of works itself out that way. So
that's awesome. And for the listeners, I will tell you that First Class Real Estate, when you're looking it up, it's the number one. It's not spelled out first. So firstclassrealestate.com.
If you put in the other way, it leads you to ours, because we looked at that too. We even looked at buying that domain. They wanted I don't know what it was, $250,000 or something for the FIR. Because by the time we got it, we kind of boosted up that search. But because no one owns it or runs it, essentially it just dumps back to us anyway. And we're really looking at that because we're rebranding. We're in the process of a rebrand right now. That's secretive. Don't tell anybody yet.
Well, you just told the whole entire world. So there you go, man.
It's no big deal. Everyone, our people know what we're doing, but it's that's a scary thing too.
It is.
Once you've built it and then you rebrand and you're like, I don't even love what we have now, but I'm scared to go into another one. It's like, it's
highly emotional. It's highly emotional when you start tinkering with your brand. We've done it from time to time, and it's emotional. And then you got to think about, all the people flying the flag and, all those things. It's not a simple thing. It's not just like, hey, let's rebrand. It's a big deal.
Yeah, well, this thing's 10 years old, from 2013. And we just, the brand, we didn't know where we were going to 2013 like we do now. And we're like, all right, that's not going to work for where we're going. We're really... Our role and our goal and what we're really setting up with the franchise model and the company as a whole is a platform. And so we will be First Class Real Estate platform. So I love it. It's just a setup to allow national growth of your own business. And we're just simply providing all the pieces together to be able to do it. So
that's awesome.
Recreate the wheel.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for taking time to visit with us. I know the listeners are going to get some gold out of this. Probably the number one thing is that I took away is don't overbuild while you're building your system, right? Don't overinvest before you need to, because sometimes it does take longer to get where you want to go. And sometimes the world will throw things at you that are good signals that can make your business tighter to what the market needs. And I think you've done a great job of that. So thank you so much again, Ryan, for joining us there. Deeply appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, one last thing. If you enjoyed this show, I would love it. I would be honored if you shared it with one person whose life it could impact, because our conversation with Ryan today, I know, is deeply impactful. And then number two, if you enjoy the show, just smash subscribe down below. Until next time, I'm your host, Kevin Oldham. This is Franchise My Business, and we'll talk to you very soon.